There are many such creepy stories from taxi drivers about weird passengers who got into their cab and then did something unexpected. So today, let's look at 6 of these creepy cab stories. And before we start, if you think this is scary, wait till you hear the last one. Story 1. The Girl in the Graveyard. In 2013, a taxi driver working the night shift in New York City got a call from a dispatcher for a pickup request. The passenger needed a ride from Brooklyn to the Woodlawn Cemetery in the Bronx. As soon as the driver arrived at the location and got out to open the trunk, though, he could see it was nothing more than a prank. No one was inside the car when he returned, but he could see the faint outline of a girl sitting in the back seat. It was so clear that he even described her clothing down to the long black boots she was wearing. However, when he looked closer, he realized there was no one there at all. He immediately called the police. In fact, the NYPD were actually looking for this same girl because several other drivers reported seeing her in their cars as well. Although cops searched the area, they found no trace of her. And we don't know what happened to her either. One thing we do know, though, is that a little girl died in the same cemetery over 80 years ago. Her name was Helen Viola, and she passed away at the young age of 4. It's possible the ghost of this child still resides near the graveyard. Number 2. Taxi terror. A woman got into a taxi in London with her 2 children. She called the cab to take them home from visiting her mother, who lived in a nursing home. They were taken by a different driver than usual because all the others were busy and the family wasn't complaining. It was a relief to get home after a tiring day. However, the taxi driver kept driving past their house. He said he didn't know where it was, which was odd since they'd used this cab service countless times before. When he finally stopped, the woman decided to pay cash instead of using her usual credit card. That's when the man turned around in his seat and revealed an axe handle. He then started screaming profanities and threatened to hurt the children if the mother didn't give him money. Eventually, he took the kids out of the back seat, and luckily, they were safe and unharmed. Number 3. A hitchhike. A taxi driver from Newcastle upon Tyne in the UK recalled a disturbing experience he had while driving a couple home from a pub early one morning. Just after dropping the pair off, another person hailed down his car, and he agreed to drive them towards Morpeth. After driving for a while, his passenger leaned forward and asked him to pull over. He obliged and waited for the individual to disappear into the darkness. But then he noticed something horrifying. The hitchhiker had been dragging himself along the road and wasn't running like a normal person. He looked like a character from the movie Train to Busan. To make things worse, his passenger hadn't paid. This freaked the driver out, and he immediately floored it and drove away as fast as he could. Number 4. Ring, ring. A cab driver in Louisiana told the story of a terrifying phone call he received from one of his passengers. One minute he was happily listening to music in between rides, and the next, a ghostly voice was coming from the back seat telling him to stop the car. Naturally, he assumed that one of the 5 people inside the vehicle was messing around, but when he turned around, there was no one there. Even more bizarre was the fact that there was no one in the back seat when he first picked them up. The driver continued on his route and eventually dropped off the 4 individuals who entered his cab at the start of the trip. But the calls kept coming. At first it was just ringing, but then the voice started speaking to him directly. The driver hung up each time, but the calls kept coming. He couldn't get the passenger's number since he only accepted cash, and they left before he had the chance to ask for their contact info. Eventually, he went to the police, but they couldn't help because he had no way of knowing who made the calls. Number 5. Backseat driver. A taxi driver from Liverpool told the story of a mysterious man who rode in the backseat of his cab without paying. He was driving around Stanley Park one evening when a man got into the car and told him to drive around the park slowly. Throughout the duration of the ride, the man kept asking him to turn up the radio and pointed to various parts of the lake, revealing that he knew them very well. When the man eventually got out, he told the driver that he owed him $1, but he refused and walked away. When the driver went to check the security footage, he saw that there had never been a man in the back seat. Now, for the final story, and the scariest of them all, number 6, the passenger who never got out. A taxi driver in Nevada picked up a quiet man at a gas station just after 2 a.m. The man gave an address and sat silently in the back, never saying a word. The driver chatted to try and fill the silence, but the passenger remained unresponsive. About 30 minutes later, the driver turned to say, "We're here," but the back seat was empty. The doors had never opened. The driver was shocked and scared and stayed in the car for a few seconds, wondering what the hell just happened. When he finally got out, he walked around the neighborhood and checked nearby buildings to see if the man had gone inside, but he wasn't there anywhere. He even checked the back seat and the trunk. But while he was doing that, he noticed the back door open slightly, and it looked like someone had exited the car from there. He remembered that he had driven the man home from the gas station, but he definitely hadn't gotten out. He tried calling the police, but they didn't seem interested because the man wasn't missing and no crime had been committed. However, the driver wanted answers. So he contacted the company to review the dashcam footage. The driver was stunned by what he saw because the man was never seen entering or exiting the car. But the most frightening part was that the man who had been sitting in the back was never actually there in the first place. He was transparent and phasing through the seats. The driver couldn't believe what he was seeing, and he immediately quit his job that night. Some people have speculated that the man may have gotten out before the driver arrived or that he had some kind of teleportation device. Others claim that the footage was edited, but there's no evidence of that. This case remains unsolved, and it's one of the scariest taxi stories ever told. Which story did you think was the scariest? Do you know any other scary taxi driver stories? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out the playlist of paranormal videos. Thanks for watching.